Does your furry friend take over your bed every night? It's time to reclaim your space while giving them the comfort they deserve with the coldest, cozy dog bed. Don't wait. Check out the link in the video description to buy now on Amazon.
An economist who accurately predicted the 2008 recession has forecast another downturn based on waning employment numbers. Famed economist David Rosenberg made the dire prognosis following the release of June's non-farm payrolls report Friday. He told clients how despite a 206,000 job bump for the month, the results are somewhat foreboding, and hold at least 5 surefire signs the U.S. economy is on the brink of a breakdown. The first, and perhaps the most telling, involves full-time employment, which while up for the month, is down 1.2% year-over-year. Declines of this level have coincided with every recession for 50 years, from the recessions of the early 1970s to the one a few years ago wrought by COVID-19. Since the beginning of 2023, the non-farm payroll data have been revised down 82% of the time, Rosenberg wrote in the July 8 note, referencing that while headline numbers were strong, downward revisions were made to prior months. One thing we do know about revisions in the data, and in both directions, is that they have this historical tendency to be highly procyclical and predictive of the direction of overall economic activity, he continued. He went on to point to what he painted as a weak breadth beneath the broader stock market, evident by a few stocks driving the bulk of returns. Nvidia alone accounted for nearly 1/3 of the S&P 500's total return in the first half of this year, he explained, citing the tech stock as an example. Tack on Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, and Eli Lilly, and 55% of the market's return came from just those 5 stocks. That is epic. So is the fact that 40% of the S&P 500 constituents are down for the year. Another example of poor performance outside of such stocks was a 4.3% decline in the small and mid-cap Russell 2500 index in Q2, he said, masked by the S&P 500's simultaneous rise of 4.3%. He said such decreases show a need for the Fed to act urgently, as the labor market continues to weaken. He added how that is already happening, before offering 3 self-professed indicators meant to prove his point. One is that full-time employment, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Household Survey, is, again, down 1.2% year-over-year, a startling statistic when you look at the history. Back in 1973, the statistic took an eerily similar dip before declining steadily in the years thereafter. This period would become known as the recession and recovery of 1973 to 1976. When the unemployment rate reached a post-war high of 8.5% at the business cycle trough, March 1975, and did not peak until May 1975, when it hit 9%. A few years later, the same would occur again, just before the 1980 recession and the 1981 to 1982 recession the year after. The same more than 1% dip happened again in 1989 before the early 1990s recession, before another in 2001 to mark the recession of the early 2000s. Like clockwork, the same phenomenon would occur again at the start of 2008 to mark the Great Recession, bringing an end to a period of recovery and expansion known as the Great Moderation. It was the largest economic downturn since the Great Depression. It was predated by an approximate 1% from in full-time employment from 2007 to 2008, which went on to fall off a cliff by a further 6% the following year. Rosenberg said something similar could be in store this year, based on the almost identical dip seen the year prior. Another recessionary sign seen on the household survey, he said, is that overall employment growth is about to dip negative year-over-year, the first time since the pandemic seen during the recession and the Great Recession before that. The last was that the year-over-year change in unemployment rate. The unemployment rate has also risen by 0.7% from recent lows. The average over the last 11 recessions has been 0.5%. The warning come months after Rosenberg, the founder of Rosenberg Research, aired skepticism over the state of the U.S. economy hours after April's jobs report fell short of expectations. In notes to clients at the time, the former Merrill Lynch chief economist explained why he views the numbers as a cause for concern. The U.S. economy added 175,000 jobs the month before, shy of economists' forecasts for 238,000. The revisions will not be coming for another 6 months. NWH.